Welcome to Kevin Runs Lean, my personal startup journal. I'm continuing to work on rolling out a process of adopting the strategies that Ash advocates in running lean. And in the last post that I made to the site, I showed you the ClaimAway business model hypothesis canvas document, the one pager that Ash Moria has developed that I posted my assumptions to. Today I'm going to walk you through how I took those initial assumptions and began developing my ClaimAway hypothesis dashboard, which I did in Microsoft Excel. So as a refresher, here's what that business model canvas looks like. I just documented my basic assumptions about ClaimAway, what assumptions I had about the problem, about the customer segments, the unique value proposition. This is all the information that Ash talks about in Running Lean. From that high-level set of assumptions and hypotheses from the canvas, I'm now going to start implementing a systematic process for testing those through consumer interviews. It's worth noting to anybody who's listening to this that I've already done several rounds of interviews, probably around 20 or 25 with people, mostly over the phone and some in person about this problem. So I had a reasonably good basis from which to make a lot of these assumptions, which is why some of them might be more detailed than what you would create on yourself if you were starting this process from scratch. Ash talks a little bit more about this process in Running Lean, but generally speaking, for each one of the areas in the canvas, for instance the problem area, I started documenting different hypotheses I have that would support the assumption. For instance, for the ClaimAway, one of my key hypotheses was that people are frustrated by the fact that their healthcare financial information is not centrally organized. And in other words, that information that you get from your insurance company that says this is not a bill piles up on people's dining room tables. So I have a sense from talking to people that's a real frustration, but now I wanted to put together some very specific hypotheses that I could test in more structured interviews, which I'm going to do over the next couple of weeks. For instance, I assumed that 80% of the people interviewed will describe this as a major problem, and 70% of those interviewed will be able to provide a specific example. And so I'm going to capture those specific metrics as I go interviewing people. Some of the other assumptions that I have would be that at least 50% of the people I interview will express some sort of emotion when talking about the example that they give me in the previous one, and that 50% of the people I interview will have created some of their own type of organizational system already. And of those who create an organization system, 50% of them will express some frustrations with it. I'm actually curious to see how this process works because I have quite a number of these different hypotheses throughout here. I think when I added all these up for just the customer assumptions, the problem assumptions, and the channel assumptions, I was able to get, I think, around 30 different hypotheses just from those couple of areas. So I'm curious to see if anybody has any advice or opinions on whether that's too many to try to test in interviews or not enough. I was surprised at how I was able to come up with so many so quickly. It's worth noting that before I actually start going out and conducting surveys and interviews with consumers, I'm going to sit down and walk through this with some of my advisors and the people who are helping me out with ClaimAway to get their take on what they think of it. But once I get a basic idea of what direction I need to go to, each week I'm going to start documenting the responses I get from people to see if these hypotheses are holding up or falling through. So that's basically it. That's where I am in the process of migrating towards using the strategies that Ash advocates in Running Lean. I will post some links to these documents just in case you're interested in taking a look at them and see if it helps you in your own lean startup planning. Thanks again and talk to you soon. Take care.